Transfiguration is an amazing and powerful theophany, as some theologians call it, where we have God fully reveal himself. When Jesus goes up on that mountain and his face and whole body and clothes are transfigured, that means they're changed into what he truly is. Many things theologically, historically, sacramentally are happened. Amazing things. His divinity is revealed. He's God. The Trinity is revealed. We see that he is God the Son. God the Holy Spirit reveals himself in this cloud. And it's one of the few times in the whole Bible where we hear the voice of God the Father. This is my Son. This is my Son. Listen to him, whom I am well pleased. This is my Son. And there's other amazing things going on. There's an anticipation of the Passover. There's even Jesus with this group called the Trinity. And also, he's talking to Moses and Elijah, connecting himself with the law and the prophets. Lots of things going on up there. But at the same time, I think there's something also going on that I would like to talk about today. There's 3 other guys there too. What are they doing there? Peter, James, and John. They see this whole thing. They have not only an encounter with God, it's like they have an encounter with heaven. Heaven on earth. Where even Peter says, hey, can we build some tents and just stay here with you? Can we just stay here? Now, having said that, I want to leave Mount Tabor for just a second and what's going on up there, and maybe come down to earth a little bit more for just a few minutes. For 8 years of my priesthood, I was a pastor in Waco. And Waco is not exactly a Catholic stronghold. It's not. Now, traditionally, it was a Baptist stronghold, and I think it is still today, but maybe not so much. Even Baylor is no longer associated with the Southern Baptist Convention. Having said that, while I was there, like all mainline Protestantism, they've had a slide. But what I noticed, there was all these startup, evangelical, non-denominational Bible churches just popping up out of nowhere. And some of them had real energy. Some of them didn't. Some of them did, though. And so I wanted to find out a little bit about them, what gives them energy, because I was giving a talk on various religions, and one of them was non-denominationalism. So I went to Amazon, and I typed in non-denominational Christianity. I got one book out of it. And the reason is, whenever you talk about non-denominationalism, it's like trying to hold Jell-O. You can't get a hold of it because it identifies with what it's not. We're not this or not that. So I decided to talk to some of the pastors, and it was an amazing experience. I talked to the pastor of Antioch. We met with some other pastors there. I talked with the pastor of Journey Church, which has got about 500 or 700 people. He's doing well. I talked to the pastor of the Church of the Open Door. Now, that's actually on the highway, and you could see it from the road. It used to be in Albertsons. Be on the lookout. Many of these churches had different beliefs. Some of them were sort of Pentecostal. Some of them were kind of stealth Baptist. But one of the things they all had in common, because the mystery is, all they have is a sermon. And everybody gathers around a single pastor and his sermon. That's kind of the highlight or the focal point of their Sunday services. But what all of these churches had was they had the main service, but they also had these life groups that met outside the main Sunday service. They called them life groups. Some of these churches, you couldn't join their church without joining a life group. And so what did they look like? Well, they were little discipleship groups, 4, 5, 6 people. Usually men met with men and women met with women. And the pastor would give these groups the text he was going to preach on, and they would reflect on it. So they already had some energy going before the Sunday service. And so when it came time for his preaching, there was more energy. Now, having said that, even though that very much gave their church some more energy, there was also a danger involved. For several of these life groups, some of them became a break-off church. That happens. That's kind of in the fabric of Protestantism. They protest us and each other. Actually, one of the biggest churches in Waco is an offshoot of another church in Waco, started by one of these little life groups, these discipleship groups. So if we go back up to Mount Tabor for just a second, I would argue that Jesus, he did have a small group of people that he ministered to more directly. We know there were literally thousands as his sermons. We know that. We know that there were 72 of his disciples, formerly his disciples. And what is he doing? He's discipling them. But there was a smaller, more intense group called the apostles. There was 12 of those. We know their names. They're the first bishops of the church. But that was not the most intense small group that he had. There was another, more smaller, more intense inner circle of men that he directly and intensively formed: Peter, James, and John. Now, how do we know this? Well, the scriptures tell us this over and over. He invites those three into several of his miracles when he heals Jairus' daughter. When he goes up on the mountain, he only takes Peter, James, and John. And when he starts his passion, when he goes into the Garden of Gethsemane, he asks those three guys, can you come with me? Can you come with me? Now, they're crashed out at that time. But I can just imagine when they're on the mountain, the bottom of Mount Tabor, and I've been on this mountain of transfiguration. It's a big mountain. We took a bus up it. I can't imagine walking up it. I can imagine saying, you three, come with me. We're climbing this mountain. Now, you might think they would say, yay, yay. Jesus asking us to go with him. I think they're more like, why just us? Why do we have to go up this thing? And they trudge up the hill, and it's a long one, and we hear today that they collapse. They actually fell asleep, only to wake up to have an encounter with the inner life of the Trinity, to see Jesus experience the Holy Spirit and hear